Dear God in heaven, Lord, we thank you for all our blessings and your goodness and your mercy towards us. We thank you for your infinite love and your patience. We thank you for guiding and directing us. That we are even a part of this movement, Lord, is such a privilege and a blessing that we are thankful for. For I know myself, I would not be here if not for you. But as we continue to study and learn and grow and understand, Lord, may you continue to guide us and direct us. That we, Lord, may be faithful and obedient on this journey and have understanding of all that is going on in the world as we discuss some of the external events tonight. We ask you, Lord, to help us to better understand, and that through the methodology, we would be able to see this battle that is happening. We thank you and praise you, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I was thinking about one Sabbath. I'm not sure if it's going to be this one or not, but it depends on a couple of other people. That maybe we watch a couple of the Portugal classes that might be helpful to us. So maybe give your thoughts back on that. And but tonight I have an article, unless anybody else has anything. I have an article from Time Magazine that was last week on DeSantis, as we were discussing him, Trump and DeSantis. And so I thought maybe we'd go through that article. I think a couple of you may have read it as well. I'm not sure. I think I read it on the Sabbath after we finished. So if everyone's okay, we'll go through that. Or I do have also the latest media broadcast articles on issues with abortion. Anybody have a preference?
DeSantis sounds good.
They're all needed, so whichever is good.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else, or we're all good? Okay. So I believe everybody heard the news today, probably, that DeSantis did whatever it is they do, register to that he'll be running.
Yeah, they
That's
said
how
there
you
was
say
a lot of glitches with it.
Yeah, I didn't.
was-
I just heard it, but hadn't seen any articles on it. What did you hear?
Well, it's all over the news. It started out and they were having all kinds of problems with Twitter. So it was they said it was a disaster, the first portion of it. Whether he got his message out there or not, I mean, he probably did part of it. I did not see it, but I saw it on the news here on my computer. So that's what they're talking about now. And I did see because I get these alerts on my phone, like probably everyone does.
Yeah.
And it said that Biden is tied with DeSantis right now. If, the vote were to be taken, Biden is tied with him. But there's a long way to go yet.
Yeah, this article was kind of eye-opening after our discussion. So I don't know which way it's going to go. But I'm sure as we continue to get further along, we should be able to understand it. But this was pretty. There was a lot of things about him that I didn't know that he was doing. It was pretty bad.
Oh, DeSantis?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very dangerous.
Yeah.
In fact, that's
knew
what
that.
some of the alerts were saying about him. He's an extreme right person.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll start and then we'll pass it around. And this was May 18th. This article came out. It's a Tuesday morning in Tallahassee in a wood-paneled hearing room at the Florida legislature, and the Florida legislature is packed. It's packed. I think it's supposed to be in. The state Senate's Fiscal Policy Committee is considering a bill to prohibit most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, and dozens of citizens have lined up to testify. Anguished young students in colorful hair and abortion is healthcare t-shirts. Little old ladies wearing cardigans and crosses. For hours, they speak in emotional terms as the senators listen. Yet in the air of inevitability, an inevitability hangs over the proceedings. Governor Ron DeSantis supports this bill, and therefore it is destined to pass. In Tallahassee these days, what the governor wants, the governor gets. It is DeSantis who welcomed the fight, DeSantis who calls the shots, and DeSantis who will reap the credit or blame for his latest move in a frenzy of right-wing policymaking. His dominance is hard to overstate. From school board meetings to the Walt Disney Corporation, the shelves of elementary school libraries to local mask ordinances, everything bears his stamp. Having shepherded his state through the COVID-19 pandemic, bucking the political and medical establishments to follow his own read of the data, DeSantis has manipulated levers of power to enact a sweeping agenda. I just want to add a thought here, going back to this time with them going, how Florida handled this. I'm pretty sure that it was in Florida, and I don't remember who the woman was, her name or her job title, but she was some sort of expert in tracking data, I think. Does that sound familiar? She was tracking data and putting it out in real time, and wound up getting fired from her job. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hopefully somebody knows what I'm talking about. And then they harassed her in her home as well. Anybody remember know what I'm talking about? If anybody, yeah, you can put it in the chat if you're able to remember. Maybe we can talk about it. So,
yeah, Sarah says she remembers. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I was, in case she wants to put it in the chat if she remembers. But I remember watching quite a bit on it when it happened, and they came to her home. I'm pretty sure they arrested her, and it was pretty ugly. So the week I landed in Tallahassee, this is the author, the week I landed in Tallahassee, he signed an expansive school voucher law and a measure investing more than $700 million in affordable housing. The legislature was hearing his proposed ban on gender-affirming health care for minors, a bill to expand gun rights that would allow concealed carrying of firearms without a permit, another that would dramatically curtail union rights, and a bid to prohibit socially conscious investing. Does anybody know what socially conscious investing is?
Isn't that like investing in solar and what do you call those? Green things, yeah.
Is it?
Green as opposed to carbon and oil and all that.
Okay. Isn't a school voucher and a measure investing more than $700 million in affordable housing? As I read that, that's a good thing, right? Is there something wrong that I'm missing there?
Well, that is on the surface, that is a good thing, affordable housing. But I think what he's doing, just my opinion, is giving a little, taking a lot.
Yeah, okay. Okay. It was just interesting that that, I mean, I expected to not read anything positive, and there's generally reasons when they do something positive. So yeah. Okay, so this reporter, when they're there, that's what they see this, he signs it in. And then the other things that are being heard: gender affirming health care for minors, a bill to expand gun rights that would allow concealed carrying of firearms without a permit, and another that would dramatically curtail union rights. So union rights, that's like the protection of the people, right? To get rid of the union, or to limit the union rights, meaning they're not going to protect the employees, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then a bid to prohibit socially conscious investing. So if that's green investing, like you're saying, then that fits with the Republican Party, as they are on climate change. All would eventually pass. At DeSantis' behest, legislatures this year also eliminated diversity programs at public universities, made it easier to sentence criminals to death. That was an interesting one too. I think it goes into it, if I remember right, a little bit, and barred schools from using trans students' preferred pronouns. So
Yeah, so define criminals now.
what was that?
I said, now define criminals.
Yeah, sentence criminals. Yeah, and it does. It talks about the in a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was this article that talks about that, and it was pretty bad. I don't remember specifically what it was, but it was not something you would normally see, the death penalty, and it was quick. So, for a typical Republican governor, any of these policies might represent a signature achievement. For DeSantis, they're the latest line items in an agenda he calls the Florida Blueprint. We've had conservative leadership in Florida for the past 23 years, but we've passed more conservative bills in the past 2 years than the previous 20, and more this year than the past 22, says GOP State Senator Joe Gruters. It's a rocket ship, a steam engine. Out of a combination of fear and mutual interest, legislatures have put aside their own pet projects to do DeSantis' bidding, passing bills to shield his travel records from the public and allow him to run for president without resigning the governorship. And that was brought up on the Sabbath. Trying to remember if it was Kathy Brown that said it, maybe Gloria. So that, let's see, to shield his travel records from the public and allow him to run for president without resigning the governorship. They've also been enlisted to clean up his messes, retroactively legalizing his migrant flights to Martha's Vineyards last year, and attempting to restore state control of the special tax district around Disney World amid the company's feud with DeSantis over LGBT rights. This governor has used all of his powers to make sure everyone around him is in lockstep, says Jeff Brands, a libertarian-leaning former GOP state senator who lost a seat on a prized committee after clashing with DeSantis over fiscal issues. Rebecca Jones, geographer, that's okay, American geographer, and a data scientist and activist. She managed the team, she managed the team that created the Florida Department of Health's COVID-19 dashboard using ArcGIS software. She was fired from her position in May 2020 for repeated insubordination. In May 2021, she was granted whistleblower protections while the state investigated her allegations. In May 2022, Florida's Office of Inspector General exonerated the state health officials, finding her claims against the DOH to be unsubstantiated and unfounded. In December 2022, she signed a deferred prosecution agreement admitting guilt to unauthorized use of the state's emergency alert system on November 10, 2020, which had resulted in her home being searched under warrant by state police in December 2022. Thank you, Mary, for posting that. Yeah, I think they arrested her right in front of her children. I think she had 3 children, and arrested her in front and took her away, hauled her off. It was really brutal. Okay, would somebody like to read?
So on that caption above where he is peeling an orange, what is that symbolizing?
You're looking at the, oh, peeling the orange?
Yes.
Well,
Wh-
I just know oranges are grown in Florida. I don't know if there's more to that.
Hmm.
Peeling, he's peeling an orange, which is kind of representative of Florida, right?
I don't know. He's got a scowl on his face, peeling an orange. I don't know.
And the juice is dripping.
And you can see it's kind of messy,
Yeah, it's dripping.
making a mess.
Yeah,
Got to be symbolizing something.
yeah,
It's kind of like draining the swamp.
yeah. Yep.
All right. If nobody wants to read, I can read.
Okay, thank you.
By operationalizing the culture war into a set of concrete policies, DeSantis has transformed the nation's third most populous state. What was once the butt of jokes about gators and retirees is now the swaggering, southern tinged free state of Florida, where men are men, woke is broke, and business is booming. 1,200 net new residents arrive every day. It's in the air, it's everywhere. It's amazing, says former GOP Representative David Jolly. No fan of the vibe shift. It's between neighbors. It's when you go to the restaurants, when you go to schools. You're on one side or the other, and people know it. A Florida native, Jolly is considering moving his family out of the state.
And he's a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
not happy with it.
If critics see DeSantis as a would-be authoritarian, allies see a conservative who gets things done. Many predicted that his hard-charging first term in office would provoke a backlash. Instead, the opposite occurred. While Republicans across the country struggled last November, DeSantis romped to a 19-point re-election victory, the biggest win for a Florida governor in decades. What was once America's paradigmatic swing state now pulsates bright red. For the first time in modern history, registered Republicans outnumbered Democrats. The people of Florida seem to like the steady hand, even if it's an iron fist. To fans, DeSantis' success proves that a pugilistic, big government conservatism that promises ruthless competence instead of Trumpian chaos can win broad support, including a growing share of working class and minority voters. We've shown that you don't have to do it the liberal way. And we're the envy of the nation when you look at our results, say State Representative Randy Fine, a Republican who has sponsored some of DeSantis' most controversial legislation and may soon be rewarded with an appointment as a university president despite no background in academia. DeSantis says what he's going to do, and he does it. People like that, even if they don't agree with him. Even if they don't agree, kind of like freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna look at, because this is what I remember reading, what Mary put in there, big government. I thought they liked small government, because where did you read that? Because it, somewhere in here says it gave that hint of big government.
Yeah, on the very top. To
Big government.
fans, DeSantis' success proves that a pugilistic, big government conservatism that promises ruthless competence instead of Trumpian chaos can win broad support.
What's pugilistic?
Fighter,
Fighter?
fighter,
Aggressive.
Paper's bull,
Yeah,
basically.
but they're generally small government. But we do know that they'll be big in the areas that are along their lines of what they want.
The blueprint has already done more than just make DeSantis the darling of right-wing media and donors. It has changed the face of American politics. His gerrymandering of the state's political map added enough red seats to secure the U.S. House of Representatives for the GOP last November. So in other words, he had to gerrymander to win.
Yeah, and that goes into a little bit more detail too, if I remember right later, how he pulled that off.
Fellow governors invited by DeSantis to policy summits where they study his approach have enacted laws modeled on his policies, affecting millions of lives beyond Florida. And his agenda has set the stakes for the 2024 presidential primary. Donald Trump's campaign has been notably more confused on transgender issues, education. Let me see, hold on. Okay.
More focused.
Donald Trump's campaign has been notably more focused on transgender issues, education, and wokeness than on the tax cuts and vaccine development that might be considered his main presidential accomplishments.
Have been notably more focused. So Trump is more focused on transgender education and wokeness rather than tax cuts and vaccine development. Is that right? That's what that's saying?
Yeah, that's what it's saying. Soon, DeSantis is expected to announce his presidential run and become Trump's chief rival for the Republican nomination. Trump has attacked him relentlessly, denting DeSantis' standing with GOP voters and sowing doubts about his national viability. But those who have witnessed DeSantis operate say it would be foolish to count him out. He's not charming, says GOP State Representative Fiona McFarland, but he is a Terminator. DeSantis' methods of keeping the legislature in line are not subtle. At one point, a Republican lawmaker was planning to oppose a DeSantis-backed bill until he got a phone call from the governor who had helped the lawmaker get elected. Without preliminaries, DeSantis barked into the phone. "Do you know why you are here?" "Yes," the startled lawmaker answered. Without saying another word, the governor hung up. "Two people familiar with the incident told me." Message delivered.
So you go with him or you're out.
Yeah, he's what do they call that?
Strongman?
Excuse me?
I was thinking strongman.
Right. That also. But what was the word that Elder Tess used when Trump got rid of all the moderates?
Oh, purging.
Urging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're either in or you're in the way.
Yeah. And from what I remember in this article, that was just one incident here, and there's plenty others that he in what he does and gets his way.
Yeah.
He's pretty brutal.
Unlike his predecessors, DeSantis does not roam the halls of the Florida State House and spends little time in his office in the legislative building. The office, situated on the ground level, has become code for DeSantis, Political recently reported. That's Plaza's bill, lawmakers will say.
I don't think I understood the point of that. Maybe somebody else does. There must be some significance, but I didn't know what they were talking about.
So unlike his predecessors, so his predecessors,
Previous governors, right?
governors, DeSantis does not roam the halls of the Florida State House and spends little time in his office. So he doesn't roam the halls of Florida State House, and he spends little time in his office.
Yeah, that part I got. I don't get the,
So the office situated on the ground level has become code for DeSantis. Politico recently reported.
that's Plaza's bill.
That must be an in thing that we don't know what that is.
Yeah. Maybe if we remember, we'll click here and it might tell us what that means
Hmm.
if we have time. We can do it now if you want. I just don't know what that means.
Yeah, yeah.
You want me to click there now?
Yes.
It might take us, it's gonna take us to a whole nother article, so I don't know if we're gonna. Yeah, I don't know that I wanna. Unless Christine can help me how to search what we.
Hmm.
Is there a way to search here, Christine?
Type in the word reported, maybe.
Where at?
That's what, do a control F. So F is in find, control, on your keyboard. So looking at your keyboard, you press the control button in the lower left corner, and then the F key. And then, a little thing will open up,
F what?
control. So
Yeah.
it's CTRL,
Yeah,
and then the F.
I did that and nothing come up.
Nothing comes up. I'm not seeing anything either. That's weird.
Um,
At the same time, so press control and then F. At the
Oh, wait a
same
minute. It says, right there, it says, what Plaza wants, Plaza gets.
okay. Lawmakers, including those at the top, have come under repeated pressure during their 60-day session to carry out the DeSantis agenda. Some of those in the process have told Playbook that the governor's office has taken so much control over bills that the expression "that's Plaza's bill" has now emerged, a reference to the first floor of the Capitol where DeSantis operates from. So I guess it's just a reference to the bills that he passes.
Yeah, but the way he passes them.
Right.
It's like takes control.
Right.
Yeah, control over bills. That's Plaza's bill has now emerged, a reference to the first floor of the Capitol, where DeSantis operates. So DeSantis operates from the first floor, I guess, like the plaza. Right, you have the lobby, you have the plaza, you have the mezzanine,
Okay.
right? So plaza is where DeSantis operates, and because he pushes all the bills through, that's the reference of DeSantis pushing those bills through.
Okay. My understanding from this article is he works as a solo person with the support only of those, using the support of those that support him. But he does what he wants.
Yes, so when he
Okay.
pushes them through, that's the plaza bill.
Okay.
DeSantis, 44, was born in Jacksonville and raised in the Gulf Coast city of, is that Dunedin, where his mother was a nurse and his father installed Nielsen TV rating boxes. A book-smart introvert and talented baseball player, he graduated with honors from Yale University, where I knew him slightly, and Harvard Law School before joining the Navy. He was a JAG.
Yeah.
As a member of the Judge Advocate General, he was stationed at Guantanamo Bay and then deployed to Iraq, where he served as a legal advisor to the SEALs during the 2007 troop surge. So he's got some experience under his belt.
Yes,
Uh,
educated, very highly educated and experienced.
In 2010, DeSantis left active duty and settled near Jacksonville, where he worked as a lawyer and married a local TV anchor, Casey Black, whom he met at a driving range. As the Tea Party fervor crested, he self-published a book of conservative ideas, Dreams from Our Founding Fathers, and traveled to local activist meetings to give talks and sell it. DeSantis was looking for a way into elected office, but unsure where to start until he met two Florida consultants, Tim Baker and Brian Hughes, who had made a specialty of electing conservative insurgent veterans. DeSantis thought he might run for a state legislature for some other low-level office. The consultants persuaded him he had a shot at a Jacksonville area congressional district that had just been redrawn to favor the GOP.
So that word insurgent, I think I picked up from in the article elsewhere, electing conservative insurgent veterans. I think maybe somebody help me, but insurgent meant that you're running against somebody that is already there, or the stronger candidate. I think, does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Who had made a specialty of electing.
That's incumbent, isn't it?
Yeah, is
Yeah.
that what it's called, an incumbent, right?
Well, incumbent is the one who's already there.
Right, right. And then the insurgent, I think it kind of defined it later on, if I remember right, that the incumbent had the edge, so to speak.
Right. Usually incumbent, the one who is already holding the office usually has the edge. But here it seems like he's saying that Tim Baker and Brian
Helped
Hughes
him.
helped elect conservative insurgent veterans. So they're able to break in.
And run against the incumbent and win.
Yes, break it into the incumbency and beat them.
Yeah.
And insurgent is like a rebel too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry I came in late. Did this article also, I heard it mention Guantanamo because he was used as an advisor there also for the force feedings of the prisoners and torture.
So
I
he
read
was-
that a while back
So
in
he-
another article. Go ahead, Phil.
So Guantanamo Bay, he was part of that torture, part of that the
Yes,
water.
I remember
waterboarding?
telling, not, no, it didn't mention waterboarding. It mentioned there were some prisoners that wouldn't eat. Right? It was their way of rebelling, or not rebelling, what's the word? You know what I mean? Like sort of like Mahatma Gandhi did when you're protesting something against something where you just don't eat, you starve yourself like in protest. And DeSantis was one of those at Guantanamo who advised like shoving the tubes down their throats and force, that's it, Anna, like a hunger strike type of a thing. I don't remember. I remember mentioning this to Elaine a while back. So I read it in a different article about him being at Guantanamo Bay and about him also being one of those people that, you know, the other soldiers or whatever go to for advice, and that he advised force feeding them. He's got a lot of awful parts to his character. And then one other thing I read recently too was that he's a Reaganite, and we know the template of Reagan in our lines, right? And so I thought that was kind of interesting that he kind of that's also in his makeup, his character. So
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's an eye opener.
yeah,
So these
not a
con-
good one. Sorry.
these consultants then persuaded him that he would have a shot because the district had just been redrawn to favor the GOP. So, and we know that he has gerrymandered as well. So they'll go into that more.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the GOP, you know, they love Reagan and they want to go back to Reagan.
Yes, yes,
So he being a Reaganite, that might make a big difference.
yes.
Okay. The 2012 primary was crowded and DeSantis had little money or name recognition. The consultants devised a guerrilla strategy designed to tap into the new conservative.
Sorry, that's not me doing that. It's the ad changing that keeps making it jump.
Oh,
Sorry
I
about
said,
that.
who's got control of this?
Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't even have my hands on it. Okay.
So we're being infiltrated. All right. The consultants devised a guerrilla strategy designed to tap into the new conservative zeitgeist. Zeitgeist?
I'm trying to remember what that word is. I remember a movie on it. Or
I think Geist means ghost.
finding spirit or mood of a particular period or history as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the time.
Uh,
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I know there was back in the days of conspiracy theories, there was one called Zeitgeist. That was a
So
long time ago.
so the conservative mood, the conservative spirit, tap into the new conservative spirit.
What would conservative devised a guerrilla strategy designed to tap into? So what would the new would imply Neo, but I believe we could see him as a paleo.
Well,
I
maybe
don't know if
now,
we
but this
do.
is 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2012. Okay.
So are we saying he is a up and coming paleo?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It's new conservative, which would imply, based on our studies, we would see that as neo, but I don't know. I mean, maybe the author just sees the Republican Party as they were, and here, because this is the Tea Party that's being, coming from the Tea Party, and you've got this new conservative. So to them, would that not be looking like a new conservative?
Sounds-
Now, wow.
Go ahead.
That could mean the consultants devised a guerrilla strategy designed to tap into the new conservative zeitgeist. So that could either, yeah. So that's like the mood, the political mood, the political mood of the conservative. So that could either mean, so 2012. If you go back to 2012, was that paleo or was that neo?
Well, the paleos, elder test marks the paleo, the transition from neo to paleo in 2009. That's why I'm saying I think that when they're using the word new conservative zeitgeist, I think, and I might be wrong, that they're referring to the Tea Party, which is basically going to be the paleos.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how I
see
read
it.
it. Not the neo, because the neo is the one that has been ruling for what, 50 years. or not quite 50,
Yeah, for a while, yeah.
for a while. So now the mood is switching to the paleo. So that's what I think he said, the new conservative side, the new mood.
And you did have the paleos rising in Buchanan, Reagan, and then Buchanan running. Remember that was the
Yeah.
peak of paleo, and then came 9/11, and the neos continued on. That's the way I understood it from that article that we read. The neocons continued on, and then 9/11 comes along, and the intervention is happening, and people get tired of that, and then comes the Tea Party.
Yeah, I see it that way too. Yeah, Tea Party, and then it moves into the neocon from the Tea Party.
Say that again, sorry.
Yeah, it's the Tea Party, and then we had the rise of neocons after that, or am I reversing that?
No. The neocons were before the Tea Party.
So it's paleo after the Tea Party.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, the Tea Party would be the rise. That's where, like I said, that's where Elder Tess marks the transition from neo in 2009 to paleo, and what was going on at that time. And this was the battle within the Republican Party. What was going on in that time was those far right conservatives, the alt right rising up, the Tea Party, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mary said, so he is to tap into paleo's old ghost and bring it into the alt right and overthrow the neocons. I think that's where he's up and rising into the paleo faction.
Yeah, so DeSantis is, of course, leaning that way too. He's leaning towards the paleo,
Do we know
but I would say he's an extreme right, just
Yeah,
like Trump.
do we know anything about his foreign policy? Is he isolationist?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, but paleos are isolationists, so I'm
Right.
assuming the same.
He would be. He's a nationalist.
If he's part
Like
of
Trump, he's definitely
Yeah,
a nationalist.
Jackie's right about that. It's like DeSantis and Trump are the opposite sides, kind of, or two expressions, of the same extremist kind of agenda,
Yes.
where they want to wreck democracy, right? And they want to protect the white Christian community, persecuting LGBTQ communities, and suppress like rights and erase histories of people who aren't white. DeSantis is scary. He would convert
is.
America to autocracy.
Yeah.
He's
I
not
agree.
as noisy as Trump. He's different, right? He's more low key than Trump was in his manner,
Yeah.
right? But
And
he's trying to
more
weaponize
intelligent.
the law more.
And his
Huh?
intelligence is much higher than Trump's as far as governing.
Yes.
And his background,
Yes.
where Trump is just an outsider. He's never been a governor or anything like that in politics. So that's
Yes.
why he got a lot of the votes, because he was an outsider. They said, get rid of these establishment people, when he, in 2016, just like Hillary.
So Mary put in there that we know he's for erecting borders. Thank you for reminding me of that point. So he's isolationist because we know what he did when Florida isn't even part of the border. I'm trying to think of the map. It's not even part of the border, right? And I don't think it is. No.
No, but
no,
there's a
because
lot
no
of
water,
Cubans
so-
coming into Florida.
But he's
A lot of
Yeah.
migration
all the
from
Cuban.
Cuba.
That was a big.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry. No,
We had
and
the
Jackie
same
said
thought.
that it reminded me, because in the 80s, I think was it Castro, who was trying to get back at America, and he shipped all kinds of Cubans over here. He opened the prisons in Cuba and all that, and there was a big scuttlebutt about that, about the kind of people that this is about the time they made this movie Scarface with Al Pacino, where it showed him coming over here and getting into the drug trade. That was all
Mhm.
during the 80s. I remember that. And
Yeah.
so that would be like DeSantis's part of, his hate maybe of immigrants too, when you
Yeah.
think of that time that he was raised during all that too.
But
Yeah.
he's the one with Abbott that paid, I think it says
Yeah.
in here, it says how much, but I thought it said something like $5 million. I'm thinking, why that much? Maybe it said $1 million, but why did it cost that much? But anyways, in him shipping immigrants off to Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
definitely he's
Definitely.
isolationist then, or anti-immigration. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Also,
great with all of
Haiti,
it.
that's another country. Haiti, so poor. So, people trying to get out of there too. And Dominican Republic, maybe too. So, it's a constant inflow. People risking their lives, get on little boats or they're not, whatever floats in the ocean just to get over to the United States. And DeSantis is clamping down on them in Florida, on these people that are, just trying to find a decent place to be and raise their families, whatever. They're starving down there in those countries, just like South America, all the immigration too. It's just horrible.
So he's got little money and no name recognition. And it goes on, and he's a paleo, we can see. This is 2012.
Yeah.
Come a long way to have Musk now endorsing him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, he
you
hasn't, from what I was reading, Musk hasn't said who he's going to endorse, but it seems like doing what he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they have his own motive.
Musk is a icky one. He's in a way, he's hard to read, but he also is like what Jackie was describing DeSantis, because Musk was raised in South Africa during the apartheid thing. And even though he plays that down a lot, you can see he makes the worst awful jokes. They're not even funny. You know what I'm saying, Elaine? Some of the
Yeah.
things that he tweets out. He loves to get the stick out. He loves to stir the stick. He loves all that. And
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Oh, yeah. Mm.
Do you want to continue?
Yes, okay, I was muted. I was
Oh,
reading with,
okay.
I was reading while muted.
Oh, good. Maybe
Yeah.
you can start over.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The 2012 primary was crowded and DeSantis had little money or name recognition. The consultants devised a guerrilla strategy designed to tap into the new conservative zeitgeist. Casey, a local celebrity, began using her married name on television. The couple went door to door using his advisor's data to target households with the strongest record of voting in Republican primaries. Meanwhile, his consultants, who had agreed to backload their fees, gambled by spending nearly all of the campaign meager budget on an ad on Fox News. Okay, there's Fox again.
Yeah.
DeSantis began to close the gap on his more experienced rivals. He impressed national right-wing groups and won the endorsement of the influential Club for Growth, which brought a flood of cash from donors. He won the 7-way GOP primary by a wide margin, drawing nearly 40% of the vote. Buoyed by the success, the consultants drew up a plan to raise DeSantis' profile as he headed to Washington. But the candidate dismissed them. He didn't want to spend more money with his election to Congress, all but assured. It was only when Baker and Hughes expressed concern that the dispute might become public that DeSantis relented, according to the two people familiar with the episode. Their role in this early career is not mentioned in DeSantis' new memoir, The Courage to Be Free, which describes the door-knocking strategy as if it were DeSantis' own idea. He has a habit of rewriting history, one of the people familiar with the episode told me. There's Richard Petty, there's Tom Petty, and then there's Ron DeSantis Petty.
So he gets these consultants and they help rocket him up quickly. And then he wants to abandon them and go on his own and not even give them credit for anything that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
This gives his record. I don't know if you want to, you can read these if you want.
Sure. So the DeSantis land. The governors manipulated the levers of power to pass a sweeping right-wing agenda. Abortion. In April, DeSantis signed a bill that would ban most abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy, building on a previous 15-week ban he signed into law that predated the Supreme Court's decision striking down Roe v. Wade. Education. School vouchers are now available to all Floridians, regardless of income, while the teaching of gender and sexual topics is banned from kindergarten through 12th grade in public schools. An expansion of last year's parental rights in education law.
So that's the one that still confuses me. It says the governor has manipulated the levers of power to pass a sweeping right-wing agenda. And maybe I just don't understand this vouchers thing because it's listed as if it's part of a right-wing agenda. And don't the vouchers, aren't they something that helps people, something that Democrats generally do?
No, no.
Maybe I don't
I know it
vouchers.
sounds like this, right? But look at this scenario. If you don't want, so school vouchers, right? You have to.
They control you if you use the vouchers.
You have to pay for private school. But if you have the voucher, you can take your kid or kids out of the public school and use your voucher and put them into the private school.
Okay.
So if you don't want your children to learn about transgender and LGBT and all of that, then the parent can use the voucher to pull their kids out of the public school system and put them into the private school.
Okay.
So no, it's a right-wing thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's more sneaky and more deceitful when you think about it too, because they wouldn't give school vouchers for the poor normally,
No.
unless it's to brainwash their children and take advantage of them, right? Get them out of the public schools. Yeah, like what you're saying, Phil. You know, ugh, so terrible.
Isn't it?
So
Yes.
So the school vouchers give them the opportunity to go to schools where they can control what's taught. Is that what that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Even though he's still doing these things in all the public schools as well.
Yeah, still banning them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, transgender restrictions. DeSantis-backed laws have barred trans athletes from women's public school sports, prohibited gender-affirming treatments for minors, and blocked trans people from using their preferred bathrooms in public buildings. Immigration. A new law restricts undocumented immigrants' access to social services and makes it harder for business to hire them. DeSantis has also spent more than 1.5 million flying migrants to Martha's Vineyard. So I'm not okay, so I didn't quite understand that. A new law restricts, okay, so it restricts undocumented immigrants access to social services and makes it harder for business to hire them. Okay,
So they they can't get government help, and also made it to where businesses have a difficult time to hire them.
right,
And then there's that it was 1.5 million. I had the one.
right, flying migrants to Martha's Vineyards.
That's an awful lot of money. I mean, it must be something that he did more than once then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many times he did it, but yeah.
Wow.
He also activated the National Guard against Cubans that tried to come into Florida. He has a lot of support from this wealthy minority.
Criminal justice. DeSantis-backed measures permit non-unanimous death penalty verdicts and allow child molesters sentenced to death.
So
Dream.
permits non-unanimous. So because the death penalty, it has to be unanimous in order for someone to get the death penalty, right? So in Florida, it doesn't have to be unanimous in order for someone to get the death penalty. And then child molesters get the death penalty.
Okay. A bill cracking down on violent protests was blocked by the courts. So he also had a bill that would crack down on violent protests. So define violent.
Right. They have their own definition.
Yes. Fighting wokeness.
Oh,
A
that's
sweeping
big.
ban on schools teaching critical race theory was stopped in court, but educators say it has had a chilling effect nonetheless. DeSantis has also prohibited diversity initiatives at public colleges. Over 3 terms in the House, DeSantis was a reliable conservative, not known for his people skills. Congressional colleagues described him as strikingly aloof, rebuffing or ignoring friendly overtures, and wearing earbuds to avoid conversation. A co-founder of the right-wing Freedom Caucus, DeSantis, in his memoir, describes his years in Congress as mostly frustrating. GOP leaders exercised top-down power, he argues, but weren't willing to fully use their leverage to achieve conservative goals. He does, however, tout his work on the Puppies Assisting Wounded Service Members Paws Act, which funded a program providing service dogs to veterans with PTSD.
Notice too, where it mentioned the freedom in that paragraph. That's his motto, is framework for freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where he was
We
the
know what that looks
co-founder.
like.
Yeah.
Toilet.
Yep.
The Freedom Caucus. No definition found. Doesn't exist.
Susan had it. What did you call it?
He has a motto on his webpage on the internet, and it says framework for freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
That's his motto.
Freedom for whom?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We know.
Yes.
I'm just throwing that out there. It's just another, witness to who this man is,
Mhm.
Gary.
In 2016, DeSantis briefly ran for the U.S. Senate seat that Marco Rubio had vacated to run for president, but dropped out when Rubio decided to return to the Senate. Instead, DeSantis announced a run for governor in 2018. It was another insurgent campaign. The Florida GOP establishment already had its hand-picked candidate, Adam Putnam, the state agriculture commissioner. But DeSantis again read the changing currents of the GOP. He appeared relentlessly on Fox, emerging as a reliable defender of Trump, particularly on the Russia scandal that enveloped the first years of the president's term. On December 8, 2017, DeSantis and a fellow right-wing Florida Congressman, Matt Gaetz, hitched a ride on Air Force One to a Trump rally in Pensacola. Along the way, Gaetz urged the president to endorse DeSantis for governor. He described Putnam as a never-Trumper and read aloud a list of negative things Putnam had said about the president. A couple of weeks later, after catching another DeSantis appearance on Fox, Trump endorsed him on Twitter. DeSantis made the most of it, mentioning Trump 21 times in his first debate with Putnam and running an ad that jokingly showed him reading The Art of the Deal to his young children and building the wall with toy blocks. Yeah, so this is one of the ads that Trump has. Because I don't know if you saw the ad, but DeSantis was endorsed by Trump. And so basically in this ad by Trump's campaign, it kind of like the same thing in the above paragraph when DeSantis called up that legislator and said, "You know why you're here, right?"
Right.
And he said, "Yes." So that was kind of the same thing that Trump put out in his campaign, saying
To
how he
DeSantis, about
endorsed.
DeSantis.
Yeah, he just he endorsed DeSantis, and DeSantis would not be here if it was not for Trump. So it was that kind of ad.
And DeSantis kissed Trump's butt too, because during that time, not now, but during that time he did, and his campaign like commercial showed he had just had a son, and they showed how they'll show pictures and things in a quick campaign ad when they televise it, and they showed his son in a crib in a mega t-shirt, like he was giving his nod out to Trump back then, right? Too. So it was like, what do you call that? I'll scratch my back, you
You
scratch,
scratch my,
He, yeah, he
yeah,
uses,
you got it.
he uses people to get what he wants.
mhm.
Yes. And he uses children in his ads a lot too.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we know that's the ploy
which is scary.
of the conservative party anyways, is to use the children and then work their way up to the adults when it comes to like trans issues and the issues that in the schools, they make the children out to be victims, and you got to protect the children, and then they go from there and rise up to the older and want to, as that one man said, they want to exterminate, wasn't it? Eradicate. all
Eradicate.
gender. Mary said, what do we understand by the changing current of the GOP? DeSantis understood the times and issues. That was in the previous paragraph, right? I think we would go back to, where was that at? He understood the times. Was it up here? The changing currents of the GOP. If you, and this is 2017, you go back to 2012, what it was showing, what did it say? new conservative zeitgeist. So they're recognizing, if I understand correctly, they're recognizing the change that has become in, and it's to me, if I understand it right, it's part of the whole paleo conservatism and then the alt-right and Trump. And he understood those changing currents, that there's this transition that's happened in the GOP and going more far right. That's what I think that means. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, he read the sign. He
Yeah,
read the sign of the time.
yeah. Relentlessly on Fox as well.
Mhm.
And it's interesting what we're seeing happening with Fox and CNN right now. Fox getting rid of Tucker Carlson, and then CNN looking to lean more to, at least to the center. Probably worse.
Yes, and that what was it called? The town hall that
That was
was
horrible.
aired. That CNN was the only news outlet that broadcasted that, and those audience participants that were allowed into that town hall were all thoroughly vetted, right? And it was a very secure type of a situation, not like an open town hall like they try and make it seem like it's supposed to be. And the audience was all told if they disagreed with anything that Trump said, they were not to boo. They were to remain silent.
Mhm.
Only were they to applaud, only could they make noise if they liked what Trump said. And after that town hall, some of the other news outlets had some interviews with people who had attended it. And not all the Republicans that attended it were for everything that Trump had said. But the cameras didn't really show that, nor could you hear that, because it was so carefully orchestrated so that the viewing audience could only see it a certain way. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't see the truth. Only the people that were in attendance could see, like, the scowls on the faces, maybe, that the cameras didn't show to the audience it's being televised for. So that's really scary too.
That was amazing that CNN did that. Not amazing, should surprise us, but it was just showed their move, their move to in their policies and ideology, or whatever you would call it.
Yeah, and that what you're saying leads to basically these corporations, because it's a corporation and it's about making money, like, right? And they will lean the way where the dollars come in, just like what we're seeing with Target, because it's Gay Pride Month. And, I was mentioning this morning to Christine and Francisco during our morning group, when I went to go to PetSmart the other day for my animals, they had like a big, section with the rainbow and little rainbow sun hats for your animals, and the money was going, part of the proceeds go to support the gay community. But also, if you're wearing that, if you're letting your animal wear a rainbow t-shirt or whatever, you're showing your support, and now, and Target was one of those companies, like is it Coors Light or Bud Light, also one of those companies. But as soon as, like, there's such a small percentage of the crazies that will go into the stores and will wreak havoc, because somebody was posting like a personal video of, they were in Target and one of those mega people in the red shirt went in and took the rainbow, how they decorate a stand and they hang things from it. He took that off of there and he was yelling that LGBTQ is devil worship and blah, blah, blah. Well, I guess you're getting enough backlash, these companies, that they decided they'd pull out from supporting the LGBTQ community. They used the excuse that they're trying to protect their work employees, but we know that's not it. They're only willing to ride along in support when it fills their pocketbook. As soon as they are met with controversy, they're quick to pull out because they don't want to lose any money. So it's all
the
about
money.
money
Yeah,
and corporations. Yep.
I think it was a Washington Post article that I was reading today about that. And it was comparing the Bud Light, the difference between the Bud Light issue and Target. And how Bud Light was trying to reach into the a different audience. And whereas Target was only just trying to, how did it say, like continue with its already existing audience or consumers, however you want to put it. I don't remember what the word was. So the difference between the two, if I can find it again, maybe I'll send it. It was talking about the guerrilla warfare that the Republicans are using, and it's all leading into, because we're seeing all this escalate. And what does Ellen White say about the Sunday law issue? You see it escalate, and here we are in 2023, and we know 2024 is the election, and we're watching all these things, all these issues escalate in the battle raging against women's rights, abortion, and then particularly trans rights.
yes.
Yeah, speaking about, go ahead, Jackie.
Oh, I was just gonna, that struck a thought, because Trump and DeSantis disagree on their ideology. I think Trump is more kind of giving into abortion, if I'm not mistaken, if anyone has any other thought on this. And Trump appears that he's not as extremely right wing. But he's coming across in such a way, he wants to win these voters out there that would be more inclined to vote for him if he weren't so hardcore on abortion. Where DeSantis doesn't give an inch at all. He's got his agenda and he is going to push it big time.
Maybe
So
maybe that merging with the far left.
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it has to be figured out, worked through prophetically, but we know that the far left and the far right meet. And
exactly.
I wonder if DeSantis is that one, that because he is relentless with what he's going after, even though a good part of a good majority of the population supports abortion, and if I remember right, trans rights as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll be interesting when Trump and DeSantis have a debate
Yeah,
together to really cue in on that, because it's going to reveal exactly where they are. Because this is all about winning the vote to get the Republican nomination. So, and you've got really, we thought Trump was really bad, but I think DeSantis is even more dangerous. And he's intellectual. He's comes across, a lot smarter than Trump. And he has a background also in politics where Trump doesn't. Well, other than being the president, but, as I said before, an outsider.
yeah.
So they're going to be looking at where they need to go, what part of the population do they, Republican especially, and even independents too, that would vote maybe for Trump on abortion, if he's not a real hard writer, a hard right mega, like, although he's known to be mega, make America great again, but in what areas is he going to put his emphasis? That's what I'm wondering. I'm speaking about Trump. And he's certainly, his followers, when he goes off on DeSantis, they love it. He's, you know, typically he does it by criticism, you know, making the person look like a fool, and how he does it. Well, and that was probably part of it, wasn't it, on CNN? I didn't hear that interview, but Trump's an expert in that. He always has the last word, and his followers will back him 100%. So, and he has the majority of the base now. Trump does. The vote.
Yeah,
I think it's
Trump
about
is more
33%.
charismatic.
I heard. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, while you were talking, I was thinking Trump is more charismatic as a speaker, you know, than Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is kind of a dud in that regard. He doesn't have the same kind of charisma, but he's an admired strong man. A lot of people admire what he's doing within his own state. You know, like both Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis are using their states like at their laboratories of authoritarianism. You know what I mean? Like the way they're, yeah. So, but the other thing you said was about the left wing, how it comes together. And again, isn't it over freedom? They come to, yes, I know it's the interventionist, the non-interventionist and anti-Semitic kind of similarities, but also the freedom. What that really got me when I saw that motto for DeSantis, because it's like it's screaming it, you know, framework for freedom.
Yeah, that's going to draw a lot
will tell
people for sure. You know. It's my freedom. It's all about my freedom. Of course, we know the agenda too is the conservative moral agenda. And so you're going to bring people in from the evangelicals in that group that would go with maybe DeSantis rather than Trump. That's going to be interesting for sure. And then we've got
DeSantis is.
I was going to say, just as a comparing of Biden, who there's so many that don't want him to run, that don't think he can win it. But, you know, as I said, there was a poll.
Because they're bringing the age thing in too, right? That he's too old, even though Trump is just a few years younger. But look, Ron DeSantis is young. Ron DeSantis is young.
Yeah, he's
a cleaner looking candidate. If you understand what I'm trying to say, I'm not talking him up. I'm not promoting him, but I could see where he doesn't have the baggage Trump has with all these indictments and all this that's going on with Trump. Ron DeSantis comes across as a younger, cleaner, you know,
smarter
to support. Yes, and I remember they made a big deal. Remember when Florida had the flooding? Ron DeSantis was out there in white boots, you know, the like white waders, and they made a big deal about it. And people were like, "Don't be talking about his boots because you're taking the focus away from these poor people who've been flooded." But what sticks out in my mind is how, when you were talking, Jackie, him in those white boots, how he looks, I don't know, like a character. you know, in the old movies where the bad people wore the black and the good people wore the white. I don't know how to
I
explain
love
what I'm
that.
saying, but
Yeah.
he's in those pure white boots and all that muck, right? He's out there in all that muck from the floodwaters, and he's got these pristine white boots on. It really stood out, you know, in
Oh,
contrast
that's,
to the whole thing.
yeah.
Like he's trying to, and that's what Reagan did. Reagan fell into this image deal, right? And
Mhm.
so I don't know, a lot to think about.
Certainly is. Yeah. Thanks for the points too. Really helps, you know, when we're looking at this between these people, these individuals, just how it's going to end up. We know it'll be a Republican, but you know, which one? It's going to be between Trump and DeSantis, not the others don't have, like Nikki Haley, and then who was it? Scott, the black guy from, I think he was from South Carolina. He stepped up now and he's running. You know, it'll be interesting too, because the more that enter the race, these people could take away votes too, you know, from either one, from DeSantis or from Trump. Just depends how many are going to get in the Republican race here. Right at this point, we're just speculating, but talking about characters of these people.
Yeah.
Main thing.
You were going to say something where you fell?
Yes. So as Jackie said, you know, at this point, we're speculating. And that is true. We are speculating. But should we be speculating?
Should
Mm.
we be or shouldn't we? Is that what you said?
No, should we be speculating? Or should we know? I mean, we talked about this last week prophetically. Should we know? I remember when, I mean, we weren't in the movement, but I heard later on about the 2016 election that the movement was hemming and hawing about who was going to win. Didn't want to commit who was going to win in 2016. It sounded like we knew who was going to win. The movement knew who was going to win, but
Yeah.
did not want to commit. That's what it sounded like when I heard later on. So this one, you know, we talked about it last week. Should we be speculating, or should we know prophetically through prophetic methodology? Should we know? And I don't know, but it perhaps, if I could make a suggestion, maybe it might be a worthwhile endeavor to juxtapose and compare and contrast Trump and DeSantis. I mean, that's just my suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really
It's
good
pretty good.
suggestion.
Yep.
And I don't know, I'm not great at all this, but I keep going back to this, and maybe I'm wrong. But you know, the destruction of Jerusalem, how it came in two parts, right? First, it was Cestius, right, that went in, and he didn't make it all the way, and the Jews managed to, like, you know, get them into retreat, and they backed away, which kind of reminds me of what we've had with Trump. Kind of like the first attempt, because there was the 2 attempts to destroy Jerusalem, remember, in the great controversy.
But where's
And
that,
the second,
where's that,
Huh?
where is that event on the line?
well, I don't know. I'm just saying there must be something to it. I'm not good at that, Elaine. But there were 2 attempts before Jerusalem was destroyed. Like, even on the line, if you were to think right now, people are having a chance. Like, we felt a reprieve when Biden came in, right? We felt
Mhm.
this reprieve. We felt like, and a lot of people relaxed again because they were scared of Trump. And there's been this time where God is working on people right before for the Levites before their probation closes, and before the United States, before the Sunday law, right? On the big line, how the whole thing closes. But I'm not good at that, Elaine. And that's why I prefaced this. But I always remember that. And I remember Titus then, because they remained passive, those people stayed within Jerusalem. They didn't listen to the warnings, right? There were warnings given to them, but they didn't listen to it. Sort of reminds me of the way that Americans don't think these things can happen here.
Yeah.
Um, the same
Exactly.
with the debt crisis, right? The
Mhm.
same thing. Americans just go back to sleep, kind of thinking they've done this before. They'll figure it out. Da 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 da. I don't know how to explain it. And then in comes Titus. So when you posed that question, Phil, I was thinking that Trump would be the first one, and maybe DeSantis the second, the one that comes in and finishes the job. But I'm not an expert at any of this. Those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, and that's okay. So let's put the question out there because it's something that we should see where we stand on it with what Susan is saying. Where was that on the line of Christ?
So as Susan was mentioning of those 2 events, the first surrounding and the second surrounding, which is the destruction, and that makes sense, but it's got to make more than just sense. You got to be prophetic. So if you put that on the line, it's the line of the 144,000 of the John the Revelator, where 100 AD is the second advent. 70 AD is the close of probation. 34 is the Sunday law. 27 is baptism, and -4 is the time of the end, Christ's birth. So that's the big line, right? That's the
Right.
big line,
Right.
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So 66 AD. I don't know if that line, I'm not sure if that line was completed. But 70 AD is the destruction, which is close of probation. So between 34 AD and 70 AD is the 66 AD, which is the first surrounding.
So
Um,
what was the 34 AD you said was what?
Sunday law,
Right.
yeah.
So
So between 34 AD and 70 comes 66, which is the first surrounding of Jerusalem
so it puts it,
by Cestius.
yeah, so it puts it after the Sunday law and before the close of probation. Two
Right. So that puts it
actual ways.
after.
Would they be like, would they go along with the 2, something to do with anyways, the increase of knowledge, then you have the loud cry. So that was the only reason I asked the question, if anybody remembers those lines, because the lines are our guide,
Right.
I understand that correctly, then that comes after Sunday law.
Yes. Okay.
That's how I understand it, that you
Right.
can't take what happened in 66 to 70 AD, because 70 AD was the close of probation. You can't take that and bring it back to the Sunday law waymark, pre-Sunday law waymark.
Right. Because it's between Sunday law and close of probation.
Yeah. Did you see that, Susan?
Yes, but would it fit on our line, on the priest line? Would it fit? Because 2014 was the Sunday law.
The priest line ended
Then
in
we had the
20
29.
the
I'm
priest line
sorry.
ended.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the priest line ended in 2021 at Panium. the
Right.
Advent.
Right.
So I don't see that it could. Prophetically, I don't see that it
Which
could.
was the second coming. It was the second coming, right? Panium.
Right, right, right.
So
But you
the
don't see the-
waymark before that. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, but you don't see what we're seeing with DeSantis now in running for president is after Panium, before Sunday law.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I just can't seem
Yeah.
to get, yes, I just can't seem to get that out of my mind, though. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, maybe it has something later when we get beyond Sunday law, but if I understand it correctly, it's that event that those events that you're talking about are events that happen after 34 AD and they lead up to the close of probation. So you can't take those and bring them back here
Yeah.
pre-Sunday law. So we can at least eliminate
Yeah.
that one. Good to think this out and work it out, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Susan, it's good that you brought it up. So it gives us an opportunity to work on looking at things prophetically. And like Phil said, bring the two together and juxtapose them. And that's kind of what this article is giving us more information on DeSantis to perhaps do that.
Yeah. I had a thought too. Wasn't it? It's related in a way to what Susan was saying, not the event. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes. And now we can't. Did you mute yourself?
We
Do you
heard
hear
you.
me?
Yeah.
Good. Now we can hear you.
Okay, good. Now this is just off the top of my head. I mean, from what I was hearing Susan relate, and what we're talking about is speculation between possibly the two candidates on the top with the Republicans, but which would have to be something that we could follow on the lines, because it's a prophetic message. We know it's going to be conservative. I listened to this video today. It was done November 17th, 2018. And it's very interesting. It's on the parables. Parable, Christ, of course, was a parable. The methodology, the prophecy, the things that we're talking about right now, and how this relates, this Matthew 13 and this line he drew out. I mean, I don't want to throw out too much here because, you know, it might just confuse us, but I was thinking about this because of the line, and he used the 144,000 line, the time of the end, 89. And he's talking about the harvest, because that's what this parable is about, the wheat and the tares in Matthew 13. And maybe I would do this, you know, as a study, you know, if anybody else wanted to join me in it, and listen to this study that he did, because there's a lot here. The raphia, he talks about close of probation, and this is on, like I said, the 144,000 line. And it's the the agriculture model. He really emphasized that. It's the agricultural model, and it's drawn out on a line. And he takes it up through the beginning, like I said, 2000, not 2000, but he's using Daniel 14 on the plowing between the time of the end and 9/11. And then he goes from the former reign into the next section, which is where it's after 9/11, and it's where the virgins are sleeping. And we know that's in Christ Object Lessons, that story that Ellen White gives. And then we have the Sunday law, and we have the latter rain. And the fruit is in right after the Sunday law. The fruit is produced. You can see it. And that's the latter rain. So we have the former rain, we have the latter rain, we have the fruit being produced in the latter rain. And then we have the close of probation. And that's all right. That's all true. And then from COP, close of probation, to the second advent is the harvest time, because the fruit is already in the latter rain time before close of probation. So I know we said this is to be a line that we overlay. Remember, we heard that.
Yes.
And that's why I was so impressed to hear this study, because it has to do with our time we're in right now. And at the close of probation, he said, we're looking at Raphia. And Raphia is where we see the two generals. And there's a relationship there between this time of Raphia, where this Alexandria, and then, we know we studied this with the generals. And so this is relating to the close of probation time. He put that right under the close of probation. He wrote the two generals in this war. And we have a parallel to that today not right yet, but in the close of probation time. So he makes a lot of parallels here, and it's all parable methodology too, and understanding the parables that God has given through Matthew 13. And so he relates this as well in the very beginning to Jesus in Judea, Jesus' life, and the dispensation that Jesus was in. So I'm giving a lot of stuff here right now, and I'm trying to understand it myself, but I believe that, this is a very important thing to study, because it's all about agriculture, the agricultural line, and the fruit and the time of harvest. And that is the time we're coming up on. So I got really excited about this. I thought, well, maybe the Lord will open the way that I could say something about it. And I think it was open, because Susan said what she said, and we were talking about, not speculating, being more on the lines. And we know it's the prophecy, it's prophetic. So we have to have the information for that, so that we know exactly the time we're in and what's taking place right now. And we know where our part is in this. Do we know where our part is? I mean, our part is to understand it, and as the priests, and being on the 144,000 line. So I don't know if there's anyone that has any thoughts on this from what I've said. And I've just given just a sketch of this study. And I'm just looking at my notes that I took. So I think I would have to listen to this study more than one time for sure.
Which one did you watch?
Pardon me?
Which one did you watch?
I watched The Wheat and the Tares.
Yeah, but which one? There's a lot of places where he talked about it. Which
Yeah, this one was given on November 17th, 2018. That's the one I looked at.
And you don't remember where at?
Binding off, is that?
Oh, binding off, okay.
Yeah, binding off. Yeah. So, yeah,
I think that's
I
the one.
I hope I didn't throw out
Is that
stuff
the same one
that-
that I watched, that I sent out the other day? Is that the same one?
I'm not sure because did you send that out on an email or?
No, we put it in the chat. I'm pretty sure we talked about it. I'm pretty, was
Oh,
it in
okay,
the
I
first
did
half?
not-
In the first
Yeah, I
half?
didn't
did
get
he-
that one off. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Is it the one in the first half where he talked about parables?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's the same one. That's what we went over up here on the board.
Did you,
last
and
week.
you did the agriculture model?
Right.
Yeah. So, that's where my mind went. I remembered that you had done one, but when you're looking at this again, it's like, well, did I see that? Did I hear that? Is that what Elaine gave?
I've been there.
It's like, wow. And that wasn't that long ago. That was only a few weeks ago, I think.
My plan on the Portugal ones is to watch a few of them together,
Yeah.
and we'll get even more out of it, I believe.
Yeah, because I wasn't even in the message at this time.
Right.
So that was the first time I had heard that message
Right.
on the harvest, on
And
the
that was-
agricultural model.
And
yeah.
this is the line that he had, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same one. If it's the same video, that's the line that he drew.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Did you get the notes there that he put down about the Raffia, the two generals? It's at
Yeah, he did
Raffia
go into that.
and
Yeah, he
it's
did.
underneath COP.
Yeah, he went into the history of Raffia for people, and mainly for people that were not familiar with Raffia.
Yes.
He went into
yes.
the Battle of Raffia and just explained the fight that went on, what Raffia was. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's refreshing my memory, when I was listening to this and what the study that you had given. And it's like, I didn't even hear what Elaine said, but I was getting more of it here on the second time around with Carmen.
Hey, I've been there many times.
Where did I hear that? Like a complete blank, but
Sometimes
I don't know.
Sometimes I think I finally have an aha moment, and then I watch an older video and I'm like, it was there.
Where
all
was
along.
that?
It was there all along.
Oh my goodness. Well,
So Mary
anyway.
asked, yeah, we can send it out again too. If Christine can do it, if not, I'll do it in a minute. But Mary asked to go through that again with what Susan said. So here's my understanding of things. What Susan's talking about is in this history here, where there's two sieges on Jerusalem. There's 66 AD, right? And then 70 AD. Is it correct, Susan?
Yes, I'm trying to see your little writing, but yes.
Sorry. Better?
Yes.
70, 80, write them up here. So you got 30.
And that's Christ's line, right? That's the line of Christ.
Right. And so this is Sunday law here. I didn't draw it straight down it was a little off, but this is Sunday law. 34 AD is Sunday law. And we're here, right? And what you're wanting to do is take Trump to DeSantis in this history as this history.
I see what you're saying.
Do you see that? Did Mary see it too?
Yeah.
So Elaine, is that a fractal line?
No,
Yeah, it's a fractal.
no.
Well,
This is the 144,000 line,
yeah, that's right.
all the way to close of probation
Okay.
or second advent. Sorry.
Yeah, second advent, because that's the line I
And
have.
this
drawn
was
too.
the line of Christ all the way to 100 AD, the second advent.
Okay,
And so what Susan was describing that takes place here, she's wanting to place Trump to DeSantis in this history as this. So my
Okay.
understanding is you can't do that. You'd be taking this history and bringing it over here, and you can't do that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You have
see
to
that
leave it on the
clearly when you cut the
144,000
lines
line.
up.
Okay. And Mary said she got it too, so you gotta move. Excuse me. Okay,
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, to the right of that on your board.
we're at.
Yeah, he went quite into detail there with the earth and those that are the tares, those are the wheat. Yeah, and you described that too in your, when you were giving the study.
I just did the highlights to that from that video,
Yeah,
the structure, and went through the highlights on it.
right. So it'd be very worthwhile, I'm sure, to go through this again.
And that's what I
Well-
want to do through those Portugal classes, because what he shows is that in Matthew 13, when you have the fruit and we're able to see the fruit, but you don't uproot the fruit here.
Exactly, yes,
Sunday law to close of probation on the big line. You don't uproot the fruit. So Sunday law to close of probation, you see, you look out, and he points out, we'll see when we go through the Portugal classes, because this is what I need to be better at in understanding the wheat and the tares. The parable in Matthew 13, that the servants are just observing, and then the servants are actually, they have different roles. They're observing, they're not doing a work, and then they're the wheat. And then I know I need to continue on to better understand the reapers. But it's in here after Sunday law to close the probation that you see the fruit,
the fruit. Mm-hmm.
but you do not uproot them, because that's what the angel, I think it says the angels are the reapers. That's what the reapers do here. And that takes breaking down, looking at the chart and going into Revelation 14 as well, I believe, to see who to see that, like on the chart, it has Christ as that, as with the sickle, and angels with the sickle. So we need to go back and review those. So we'll
Yeah,
go back and review those.
exactly. In that harvest period, it's those, the fruit, it's, nobody harvests the fruit at that point because it's not mature yet. There's a maturity period, and that's at the second coming.
Right.
That's what I have on my notes, if that's correct. The harvest takes place, but not until the fruit is mature, where you will see the difference between the wheat and the tares.
Right.
Do you agree?
Say that again. I was
Yeah,
going through the video.
I have the harvest taking place, of course, at the second coming, before the second coming, and preparing the
Yes.
fruit,
This is
and the
harvest.
fruit has to come to maturity. It's not, it's green where it's sitting at. That's what Parmenter said. At Sunday law, the fruit is green. It's not yet shown whether it's, who's a wheat and who's a tare. And it's
Wait,
only shown in the harvest time.
No, it's Sunday law.
Is
You
it?
can see it.
Oh, you can.
You can see it. The
Okay.
servants are observing, and they observe it, and they can see it, and that's when they ask.
Oh, that's
these
right.
are-
I remember that. Yeah.
This is the priest line down here. Well, actually, it's not the priest line. He said it's not even a line, a real line. If you remember, I went through that on Sabbath or Friday. It's not even a real line because it's 1989 going to the Sunday law. And what it is, it's the church, but it's not a real line, because when I have the fractals up there, let me put this, hang on one second. You can see
Yeah, he did
the
show
top.
the fractals too.
So the actual lines would be like this.
Yeah,
What he did was just for this illustration purpose, it's not a real line, but for this illustration purpose, the church is on the bottom here. And we know that
Mhm.
the line of the church goes to the Sunday law. Right?
right.
So that, and then this up here is the world. He put 144,000 and he said, I'm gonna say it's the world. He said, I'm gonna say it's the world. So he puts it as the world. This is the church with the priest and the Levites that ends at the Sunday law, but this is the line for the world. And at the Sunday law, the servants can see the fruit. They can tell the wheat and the tares, and this is where they're told not to root out, not to pull up the tares. Wait until the harvest.
Yes, that's
So
right.
you would have that go on down here for between 2014 and, well, it'd be not the priest line. So, but anyways, you would have that down here in the movement. So the harvest, when you're looking at the world, the Sunday law to close of probation, you can see, and it's almost like you can already see.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And so you see the wheat and the tares, you see the distinction, but you're told not to do anything. And at the end of the world, or at the harvest, because the harvest is at the end of the world, that's when the reapers, the angels, the reapers will, one's going to gather in the fruit and one's going to bind the ones for the, trying to remember how it says it, if I don't have the verse open. Into bundles, bind them into bundles.
yes,
So that happens in this history here. But in this history, you're not taking them out because you might damage wheat as well.
exactly. That's right. Yep. Yeah, well, it's certainly worth going through this.
Yeah, we will. I don't know if I'll talk to Christine on the schedule afterwards.
What's that date? There was a note there.
Yeah, that's
Wales.
so, yeah, because like I said, he did a lot of presentations on the wheat and the tares.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's do it this Sabbath if Fell's not ready to do. Is Fell still here? I don't see him here anymore. Oh yeah, they're there. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Well, we got a little bit off on this, but it was good. I'm glad, I was able to bring this out a little more too, because the more we see it, hear it, and talk about it, it gets into the mind, gets into the brain. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I really appreciate it.
we can plan on 2 or 3 videos. So Friday and then Sabbath, both presentations can be videos and then discussion, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, that would be great. And then we have everyone with us too.
Yeah.
More people with us.
Elaine, just a suggestion on the videos, but it's up to you. You've seen those specific ones that you're mentioning. I really like how, was it Curtis or one of those ministries took Elder Tabo's Sunday Law presentation, remember, and they would
Paused it.
stop it.
Yeah, paused it.
Yes, that way, because there's so much information sometimes that if you watched it all the way through, I don't know, one of my challenges is remembering each of those details that I wanted to bring out at the time, or question that I wanted to have at the time, that sort of gets lost when we go through it and then discuss it after. Both ways are good, yes, but I feel like it would really be helpful to clear these areas up if we paused it and did board and discussed. It might take us longer than you're planning, but That's
that's
just a
fine.
suggestion.
We can
Good
take as long
idea.
as we can take as long as we need to.
Yes,
We can
worth
take
it.
less videos and more discussion is fine with me.
Mhm.
And pause it. It doesn't matter to me. I think we talked about doing that last time, so that's fine. We could just have the chats open if somebody wants to pause.
Sounds good.
But we didn't finish our
you.
DeSantis article, and we have a little ways to go on that. But I'm going to put it in the chat if anybody wants to jump ahead because there's a lot in here, and then we'll have to finish this up at some point too. We might want to finish it up before we start that, just so that we're not in the middle of an article. Or everybody finish the article on their own, and we can keep that information in our minds for, as Phil was talking about, juxtaposing Trump and DeSantis.
Great.
So there's the article. If anyone wants to grab it out of there.
Is that New York Times?
No, Time.
Oh, Time.
Mhm.
Yeah, that clarifies it.
Yeah.
Not the New York Times, because I have that app. So this is Time Magazine, is it?
Yeah. That was, it says time.com, but I think I said Time
Mhm.
magazine, but yeah.
Okay. Good.
Jackie, would you like to close us in prayer?
Sure. All right. Close now. Our dear God in heaven, we thank you so much for drawing us near you through this week that we've come through already. We thank you for your spirit being with us tonight and how you're teaching us step by step, day by day, hour by hour, as your spirit guides us. We know that these lines are valuable for us. We need to understand them and how they're connected with the events that we will be going through very soon in the future, not far down the road either. We thank you that you continue to hold us in your hands and watch over us and protect us and give us wisdom. Give us humility. Give us the ability to be able to share what we know and learn with whoever you bring into our lives. We know this world is hurting tremendously. We know there are many crises all around us happening, and they're coming very rapidly. And we ask, dear God, that you will help us to internalize this message on gender, patriarchy. We know these are the tests coming at the Sunday law. Strengthen us and prepare us for this time that's coming. Thank you that we can share and lift each other up and pray for each other, and that you're drawing us together in unity with you. We thank you for every opportunity that you give us. We're so blessed as a people to have this light, this truth, and that we hold it, we have it in our hearts. And this is the foundation that you want to build on, to keep changing us into your image, what you are like, your character. And we can look back and see how you have changed us, and you continue to change us from where we came from. So we leave our lives in your hands now. We ask for all of those that are suffering with illness, sickness, accidents, whatever is happening with people out there in the suffering, that your hand be upon each one, as well as each of us within the movement and around the world, especially Elder Tess. We remember her, that your hand is upon her, and Elder Parmender as well. And all the teachers, especially Elaine, I thank you for blessing her and her faithfulness to you. So I pray that you'll bring us back safely on Friday evening, Sabbath, and that we will prepare for that time We thank you for hearing our prayers. We thank you for answering our prayers. And we pray all of these things in the name of Jesus and for his sake. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Yes. Amen.